Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest in our webinar series, Achieving Unified Security Operations with Microsoft Sentinel. Talking points today, I'm going to take you through some initial introductions, a little bit about Kocho and what we do around security. Then we've got a discussion around modern cybersecurity challenges, what's new in Sentinel as well, and then there's a bit of a demonstration of the unified SecOps that we use in Kocho, followed by Q&A right at the end. So first of all, let me introduce the people that you're going to see on screen today and who are going to be presenting. So you've got myself, Anna Webb. I'm Head of Global Security Operations here at Kocho, and I'm responsible for the Security Operations Center and the SecOps service delivery. With me, I'm pleased to have Simrat Kaur, who's a security expert from, or specialist rather, from Microsoft. In addition, we also have Jaco Leroux, one of our security operations solution engineers at Kocho, who is also joined by James O'Neill, another security operations solutions engineer at Kocho. So first off, a little bit about Kocho. If you're not aware of who we are or what we do, we are a Microsoft solutions partner, and we have really grown over the last few years. So we've got round about 400 plus skilled staff within the company, and that's across sort of professional and managed services teams who are specialists in their fields, and they operate in 4 different countries, and we provide 24/7 support. Kocho clients range from mid-market companies to enterprise organizations with thousands of employees and customers. So we really do have a broad base of customers and experience. And then in regards to Microsoft and us, so we are one of the leading identity practices in Europe, and we're also a member of the Microsoft Intelligence Security Association, one of a small handful of partners who have actually achieved that status. We've won Microsoft Partner of the Year award 8 times for identity and security, and we've been a finalist in most other years as well. And we've ranked within the top 5 MSPs globally for financial services and highly regulated industries. So that's some really good sort of statistics there around who Kocho are. Just a brief sort of intro really into the type of things that we cover. So we do actually protect everything. So everything from your identity and end user compute, so things like cloud identity with Entra Suite, identity governance, and we work on things like seamless and secure joiners, movers, leavers, etc. Endpoint management as well, so managing endpoints within Intune Suite, end-to-end device management, endpoint security and threat defense. We're basically covering the whole gamut. With security, we provide obviously our managed security services, and that covers threat protection, monitoring and incident response. Compliance and data security as well, which is managed through Sentinel and Defender. We also have platform management as well for your platforms, and application management. So we really can cover the whole shooting match. And this is all wrapped in business transformation and professional services, who provide those extended sort of consultancy services beyond the managed services. And then managed service and support obviously is the main area that we provide. As you can see there, it covers identity, endpoint, service and security. So without further ado, I'm now going to hand over to Simrat, who's going to take you through the latest with Sentinel. Simrat.
Thanks, Anna. It's great to be here with all of you today. Before we dive into Microsoft Sentinel, I would like to take a few minutes to set the stage by exploring the current state of cybersecurity and why solutions like Sentinel are becoming increasingly critical to modern security operations. After that, I will introduce the Unified Security Operations Platform and explain how it helps streamline cybersecurity efforts. I'll walk you through the typical life cycle of security tasks using Sentinel as the central point of context, and then share how you can get started with Sentinel. Finally, I'll hand it over to the Kocho team to show you how this all comes together in a demonstration of Sentinel. With that, let's get started. First, let's see what we at Microsoft are seeing in terms of cyber trends in last about 1 year. First is nation-state actors are increasing the reach of their cyber operations globally. While organizations involved in policymaking and implementations were among the most targeted, but what does it mean for typical organizations? Now, these nation-state threat actors, they are typically the most well-resourced and on the cutting edge of tooling tactics. Unfortunately, they often sell their services, raising the lethality of the industry overall. So while your organization might not be targeted directly by one, you need to be ready to defend against them regardless. Second is ransomware. What we are seeing is that 80 to 90% of all successful ransomware compromises originate through unmanaged devices, and ransomware operators are leveraging legitimate tools and built-in features to carry out malicious activities. The good news is, for organizations with a strong security posture, the likelihood of an attack succeeding is very low. Typically, an attack is stopped in the pre-ransom phase, with an average 2% of attacks progressing to a successful ransomware deployment, which tells us that zero trust has never been more important. Third, cyber criminals are using cybercrime as a service to launch large-scale phishing, identity thefts, and DDoS attacks. They're also finding ways to bypass multi-factor authentication. And last year, we saw a marked shifting, I would say, in their tactics, with threat actors targeting cloud resources like virtual machines for DDoS attacks. Now, what it means for an organization is that when millions of requests per second originating from thousands of devices constitute an attack, the cloud is really our best defense, as only the cloud can provide the scale needed to counter such threats. As we move on to the next slide, we want to see how this is affecting the SOC then. When we talk to CISOs and their security teams, we consistently hear how the day-to-day workflow of analysts involves spending significant time finding the gaps left by their security tools. And if we can click one more time, we'll see that many of the security teams use over 80 dedicated cybersecurity tools. This means that most security teams have a patchwork of tools to defend their digital estate. And as a result, they are defending in silos and thinking in lists. If we move on to the next slide now, we'll see that meanwhile, attackers are thinking in graphs, expertly traversing across the network by moving between the seams of your siloed tools. This forces the security teams to manually translate their list of alerts into an incident map. And if you can click one more time, we'll see that the median time for an attacker to access your data is just 72 minutes. Now, in this slide, what we are seeing is, by this time, you've got an idea that the past couple of slides have shown us that attacks are happening in minutes and hours, and security teams do not have days or months to respond anymore. Simply put, security teams need a force multiplier. Now, this really comes to life when we think about the typical threat life cycle. Historically, security teams have done their best to prevent attacks, but most of their time is absorbed by detection and response, because response used to be fully manual. And after an attack is stopped, good security teams use what they learned from the incident to improve their preventative measures. We observed that this whole process is slow, prone to errors, and simply isn't sustainable. What we are building now is the system that autonomously closes this loop and effectively creates an immune system. For example, automatic attack disruption stops attacks that are in progress, faster than humans can react. Now, this is very similar to automated braking in newer cars, right? It's there for when things don't go as per plan. And with the unified investigation experience, analysts can respond faster than ever and really accelerate their response. As we move on to the next slide, we'll see that this is the reason why Microsoft built a unified security operations platform, a single experience that brings together the tools a security operations center requires in order to protect the organization. Native in the experience, you will get Defender XDR, Copilot for security, exposure management, and threat intelligence. And comprehensive features expand across all these tools, maximizing the context and the insights that you get. So for today's webinar, we'll focus on Microsoft Sentinel, which gives you incredible breadth of insight into your digital estate. If you move on to the next slide as we deep dive into Sentinel. Now, I know that Kocho team is covering this in the demo and in their own deep dive section, but I just wanted to cover the life cycle of tasks most of our customers have for securing their organization and how Sentinel then provides flexible protection across your platforms. As you will know, Sentinel is a cloud-native SIEM enriched with AI and Microsoft's threat intelligence system, which is informed by our threat intelligence system covering 78 trillion signals every day. So now if we look at the phases, first is data collection. We all know that as the attack surface expands, it's hard to ensure you are managing all your data. With Sentinel, you could probably start with all the native connectors we have built for Microsoft products. Many of these data sources are always free, such as Azure activity logs, including all SharePoint activity, Exchange admin activity, Teams activity. With our unified security operations platform, you can natively correlate alerts with Defender XDR. And then we have over 300 connectors ready out of the box for you to get started, which I'll show you in the next slide. This includes all major clouds such as AWS, GCP, Azure, and Oracle. Now, as we move to the second stage, once you have your data onboarded, in order to detect anomalies early, visibility across your entire digital estate is essential. Now, Sentinel uses advanced analytics, machine learning, and our global threat intelligence system to identify potential security threats in real time. As we move along, next step will be to investigate what happened. Getting the full picture of an attack is an important step in the process of investigation, and that can only happen when alerts are correlated into incidents that can then show you the full scope of an attack. This requires integration with your security tools, a strong machine learning powered correlation engine, and knowledge of attacker patterns. Our correlation engine, which is powered by machine learning, detects attacks and consolidates related alerts into a single incident, thereby reducing the false positives by over 79%. And the last step would be responding to incidents as quickly as possible. Sentinel makes it easy for your teams to manage response with collaboration capabilities. For example, you can assign ownership of an incident. You can create task list for a specific incident type. You can write comments in an incident to share progress, or you could leverage our native integrations with Teams and Slack to collaborate on response. Now, if we move to the next slide, you will see that these are some of the connectors which are available in our Content Hub, which is a catalog of connectors and solutions that include playbooks, analytics rules, and workbooks for all the data. This is not an exhaustive list, but I just wanted to share the list of third-party connectors which are available to you. As I move to the last part of my presentation today, my last slide would be to show you how to get started with Sentinel. You can start, number one, with Microsoft Sentinel free trial through the Azure portal. The trial allows you to enable Sentinel on a log analytics workspace at no additional cost for first 30 days. Second, if you are an existing E5 customer, you could save up to $2,200 per month on a typical 3,500 seat deployment of E5 for up to 5 MB per user per day of data ingestion into Microsoft Sentinel. And I can share these links with you in the chat window as well. One thing that is not mentioned in my slide here is about education and upskilling. I think it is vital, and this is something we are not talking about enough, and we should. So, in addition to the above points, I highly urge everyone to explore our enterprise skilling initiative, Ninja training, or consider preparing for certification exams. If anyone needs access to resources, feel free to reach me in the chat, and I will share some of the learning links about enterprise skilling initiative and Ninja training that I mentioned. And I would also suggest connecting with your security specialist for customized learning path, which would be tailored to needs as per your organization. Now, to wrap things up, I very strongly recommend working with the partner to get you started and engage them early in the discussions for Sentinel for best outcomes. And on this positive note, I will hand it back to our very able Kocho team for rest of the presentation, who bring in hands-on experience in driving successful Sentinel implementations. So over to you, Anna. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Simrat. That's great. So I'm now going to hand over to Jaco and James, who are going to take you through a demo of how Kocho actually leverages this unified security within our own managed XDR offering. Jaco, over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone. Let's start our demo on our demo environment. Today's threat landscape has evolved past complex operations that spend sometimes months infiltrating software vendors, compromising services with their spicy payloads. Today, we see a simple captcha that asks the user to prove that they are human. A simple run of a command string locally to pass the verification process on the website. In our example, our end user was looking for content on the internet and was tricked into or diverted into clicking on a compromised site, which prompted the captcha. To simulate this, we're going to sort of follow the user action that may have happened. And as we can see on screen, the attacker almost immediately launches their attack. What we can let's let it finish. What we can see on screen is that the attacker tried to run a script with malicious content, and the antivirus picked that up. In this case, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint includes the anti-malware scan interface, and it enhances the protection against fileless malware, dynamic script-based attacks, or any non-traditional cyber threat. And this enables the Defender antivirus to block these kinds of attacks by using generic, heuristic, or behavior-based detections, as well as local and cloud-based machine learning models. And this is straight out the box. I should comment that our demo environment consists of a standard CDX tenant with an E5 license, where we've enrolled 2 devices into Defender with very standard security configuration. And this is the protection that Defender provides us out the box. What we can see on screen is that our attacker also tried to access a few malicious sites, and through the assistance of our Defender Smart Screen feature within Defender for Endpoint, these attacks are also blocked from the get-go. And this extends to malicious content that are hosted within websites or malicious advertisements on top of them. So on the bottom right of my screen, we can see that Defender has also picked up a few items and is asking us for some interaction. If we look at the protection history, we can see that Defender has blocked our test alerts, the first one being our AMSI test, as well as our behavioral test, and lastly this is our behavioral test, and then lastly it quarantined our standard AGAR test file as well. So let's jump into the portal to see what that would look like from the Defender Unified screen. So as you might be aware, currently Microsoft Sentinel is situated in the Azure portal, and you would be accessing and configuring and managing most of Sentinel from within Azure. Today, with a unified portal, Azure joins the rest of the Defender stack inside the unified portal. Although the interface have slightly changed, all of the functionality exists as it would before, with a few sort of small changes as to where you might find some of the workloads. As an example, exposure management now sits at the top. And it allows us or shows us and offers us key insights, metrics, and customized initiatives for a centralized overview of your risk landscape. That, of course, is an extension of what we currently have in SecureScore, but we benefit from the additional information that the exposure management service provides. Right. Next, we look at the incident and response screen. The big change here with the introduction of Sentinel is that we now can see all of our alerts from both Sentinel and Defender XDR in one portal, one blade. Right now, we're looking at alerts from our Defender portal through custom detection rules, as well as the alerts that we've triggered, and includes any analytics rules that we may have set up on the Sentinel portal as well. Right. In terms of advanced hunting, we now have the ability to query against not only Defender for Endpoint, but also Defender for Office 365, Defender for Cloud Apps, Defender for Identity, and now also includes all data that has been onboarded into the Microsoft Sentinel platform. Another small update is that you might be familiar with the threat intel or threat management blade that used to be in Sentinel. It is now migrated down to threat intelligence and is situated in its own blade, where you can make use of the robust search functionality to assist you in your investigation. Part of this is the new threat intel, threat intel profiles. Switch to a screen that's loaded, and there we have a list of curated content organized by threat actors, their tools, and known vulnerabilities. We can leverage Copilot to help us understand the data presented by either summarizing the events or prioritizing the threats that are present in our environment, or what we are exposed to in our environment. Then lastly, we make use of the SOC optimization platform to assist us in understanding where we can further enhance your environment, or where we can add additional protection. So with SOC optimization, it provides us with threat-based recommendations by analyzing all of your ingested logs as well as enabled analytics rules, then compare them to logs and then detections needed to address certain attack types. So these threat-based optimizations, of course, consider both the predefined and the user-defined detection rules. So your own rules will also be considered within the SOC optimization feature. So this helps us, of course, understand where we can better, where your environment can better benefit from additional protection. Right, for our demo, we've configured two rules. The first rule is a Microsoft Sentinel analytics rule. Both rules are configured from the same interface. And if I can start with advanced hunting to showcase, depending on where you start your query, you will be presented with the necessary option to save your rule. So as an example, with my sign-in logs, if I wanted to save this, Microsoft will prompt me into saving an analytics rule, seeing that my data is sitting within Sentinel. If my data resides in the XDR portal, Microsoft will prompt us to rather generate a custom detection rule, seeing that the data is available in that platform. If the data is available in both, as with my example, where we ingested the data into Sentinel and in Defender, we will be presented with the option to create either. So if you have the data multi-homed, you have the ability to run your analytics rules or detection rules from either Defender or Sentinel. Right, for our custom detection rule, we have opted to look at our device-based events to assist in showing how Defender XDR, Microsoft Defender XDR will trigger an alert based off detection rule or where necessary off our analytics rule. Right, let's have a look at the alerts that we generated earlier. Firstly, when I hit refresh, we are prompted with a highlighted alert. This is the alert that was not presented on my screen before, or it has been updated since I've last looked at it. Expanding that, we'll be shown a list of all the incidents that are related to my attack, starting at the top with one of my custom detection rules that were triggered, but also including any other alert that was triggered as part of that event. Jumping into the first one, so let me just go back one. If I could select the whole combined incident, we are presented with an attack story, and that lists all of the associated alerts in chronological order. And on the middle of my screen, I'm presented with the incident graph, which helps visualize the correlation between the entities that has been exposed as part of this incident. This allows our analysts at Kocho to investigate not only the events on the device, but also any associated dependency or incident associated with our device. Where necessary, we can use Copilot to summarize events, to provide more information, as well as analyze portions of our script where necessary. So as with on my screen, Copilot will provide me with a little button where it feels where it can potentially provide additional information, and by clicking on this button, Copilot will do an analysis of the content in this timeline and provide us with additional information around what that threat might pertain. I'm just going to quickly jump into one of my slides to showcase that. So as an example, on the side, we'll see an incident summary, and on that summary, Copilot has structured a few sentences as well as bullet points, allowing us to understand the threat as well as subsequent threats or alerts that is associated with this. Right, part of my investigation, of course, we want to understand what was attacked or what formed part of this attack. Clicking of any of my entities will provide me with more information, allowing me to either investigate further, call in Copilot to do additional investigations, or simply adding indicators to block the associated entity in my environment. And that not only extends to items with, sorry, that just extends to items within the alert, but anything associated with subsequent alerts. We may also find that we have alerts in our attack story that may not potentially be part of this attack. We have the ability to move these alerts to other incidences where necessary. So if we feel, or as an analyst decide that this is not part of the attack, we can move it out to a different incident if that's necessary. Anything else staying in our incident can then be investigated. with our Defender XDR custom detection rule, when we select a step where this was triggered, it shows us what actions were taken as part of that detection rule. So normally you would have had to migrate or navigate to a different different part of your XDR portal to showcase which of your automated steps were triggered. Today, they live as part of your attack story under your incident graph, and you're able to highlight the events or make sure that your expected automation has kicked off. One of my favorite features of the Defender XDR experience is the timeline. Here we are presented with one of our demo VMs, and the timeline shows us where our incident has taken place, where our automated investigation has kicked off, and by a simple click, we can expose that set of events in the timeline. This allows our analysts to deep dive into every single event that's taken place pre and post event to try and determine whether or not it's malicious and to understand where we can either better protect, add additional policy, or potentially block suspicious or malicious entities from accessing the environment again. Now, a lot of this, of course, is driven by user interaction, and it can be quite daunting sometimes. And what we love about the introduction of Security Copilot is that we can always reference the tool set anywhere within our investigation, be it from simply generating a summary of these events, or as shown, diving into the attack steps and allowing us to investigate specifics around each of the picked up events. So back to my example where we have potential malicious action. Where necessary, we'll have the button that shows where Copilot can provide additional analysis, helping us understand what was run on our client environment. But you don't have to only make use of the embedded experience to benefit from Copilot. You can also make use of the standalone experience. And for that, I'm going to hand you over to James.
Thank you,
James.
Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Currently, we are looking at the prompts. The embedded experience in XDR is great for individual prompts. However, in situations that call for a prompt book, the standalone Security Copilot comes into its own. All the single prompts available on XDR are available here, and you can filter them by role and/or by plugin that they will use. But today we're going to use prompt books, and we're going to go for suspicious script analysis. So we enter our script and submit, and you should hopefully begin to see it starting to work. The script will be kept within the screen, and it will go through the available connectors for it to use. Hopefully we'll get a move on. It's chosen the generic one because it's basically a demo dummy payload. And the main advantage here is speed, in that it will flag what the script does faster than the script can be read by human eyes. And as you can see, it's analyzing what the script is doing correctly. We are creating a PowerShell script. It will test various capabilities, potentially execute malicious code without restrictions. It's making an ICAR test file. Execute a command on is triggered by behavior monitoring. As you can see, it's trying to connect to an IP address that we've chosen from threat intelligence to be suspicious. It will attempt to download a file and open up multiple URLs and download and execute a file from a local server. Get a breakdown of the script. We can rate the response, and the next step in the prompt book is to provide reputation of any IPs and host names found. We've marked this as suspicious with a score of 74 and some information on it. Of course, the private address won't be touched. We've got our references, and the next step is where it correlates it with threat intelligence, where we have all these articles based on the behavior patterns of threat actors who've used similar techniques. We've got our references, and then it will extract all the indicators. See the following. Of course, only the top one is really valid. And all the URLs for further information and the domains affected. And then moving on, we will see recommendations for responding to the script execution in your corporate production environment. With this being a demo dummy script, we won't see anything too like blocking affected devices, etc. It's mainly post-breach behavior. I'm sure if we used a spicier script, we might see all sorts of remediations. And then finally, it will summarize all the findings into an executive report. And that will speed matters up significantly as an analyst in an unfamiliar experience on his own on a graveyard shift, dealing with a situation that he's never experienced before. You can very rapidly respond, create a report, and send it off to the response team. There are in various other prompt books available, depending on the scenario. Check the impact of an external threat article, 365 investigation, risky user investigations, and threat actor profiles and threat intelligence reports. Very useful if a fast response is needed. Now I shall hand over to Anna.
Thanks, James and Jaco, for that really in-depth demo there. That was great. So I'm just going to flip back to the PowerPoint deck now, and I'm going to take you through some of the elements that really, help solidify the sort of security services that we provide at Kocho. So some of the things that sort of make us a little bit different is the sort of clear view dashboard that we have, which provides greater visibility within the SOC, not just for technical teams, but for C-level as well, which anybody who's sort of been sat in a meeting, it knows how important it is to be able to give those facts and figures to management when they're asking about return on investment for their investment in security. It does give detailed breakdown of threats within your environment, and obviously the recommendations then around those in order to improve your security posture. Also, one of our other specialized features is the fast AI assisted onboarding. So taking you from not having a security service at all to having your identities and other Microsoft based data connectors being monitored within 24 hours, with the remainder of your data connectors being onboarded shortly after that. The benefit of this is that as identity has become the foundation really of security, it's making sure that those sort of really precious elements within your environment are being looked after from day one. So just to give you a little bit more of an overview really of the Clearview dashboard, it's a real-time PowerPoint reporting portal which puts the information you need into the hands of those people who need it most, like I said, C-level technical teams, and it can really help help you articulate the risks that are in the environment and what the return on investments are. There's detailed breakdowns of the threats in your environment, so you can see things like risky sign-ins at a glance, you know, by user, by location. We've built this platform based on feedback from our existing clients who, you know, in management meetings and operational meetings have gone, right, tell me more about what you're seeing. It allows us to understand sort of risky devices and where you have software gaps in your system. So if, you know, patch management is not working the way it should, we're able to identify those areas and make sure that you know, patching is being validated and working as it should. Proactive protection and partnership is, you know, really what we look for within our services, and having nominated SDMs. We have a technical delivery lead as well that's assigned to clients within the SOC, which really makes those monthly service reviews stand out for clients, using the Clearview tool to really articulate everything that we're seeing. We are a Microsoft house, therefore, you know, our suite is Sentinel and Defender, which are best in class. And we're a proven Microsoft partner, as I demonstrated earlier on in the slide deck. But it really does mean that we can support you with your security journey. So XDR Rapid Protect is our managed security service product. And as you can see, there's some real unique features there as well. Some I've already just touched on. The hassle-free onboarding is something that really does attract our clients, and the fact that we take onboarding very seriously as well, being able to look at what you need to ingest and provide recommendations on how to optimize that ingestion so that you're not incurring those ingestion costs that I know everybody feels really concerned about when we talk about Microsoft Sentinel. It's something that we've been doing for an awful long time now, and we're very aware of clients who have probably heard horror stories about ingestion costs spiraling out of control, but it's something that we consistently manage for our clients. We set a budget and we have alerting, and we make sure that any changes to how small to that ingestion are optimized and communicated with the client. We work with our clients collaboratively to really control those ingestion costs. And finally, if you are ready to take the next step, then Kocho is approved to deliver a range of Microsoft-funded engagements, which are really designed to help you assess the value of the Microsoft security solution and how that works for your organization, including full suite of Defender products, Sentinel, and very much more. And if you want to learn more about these engagements, then please get in contact with your Kocho account team, and don't forget to speak to your Microsoft account team as well, because they're always there to help. Some of the things that we offer are, you know, free Sentinel trial, MSI workshop, which, you know, funded engagements for closer experience around Sentinel and Defender, managed SecOps service, so XDR Rapid Protect, we can actually do a POC of that as well, which can be funded. So that leaves us with about 15 minutes. If anybody is having, you know, any sort of questions that they might want to ask, so I'm going to open the floor up for some Q&A. If you do want to ask a question, there is a Q&A panel, so please pop a question in there. We already have one question that's come through by the looks of it. Is there a way to predict Sentinel ingestion costs? So when it comes to Sentinel ingestion costs, there are calculators available that can help you get an understanding of what your projected Sentinel ingestion costs may be. We can estimate those as well based on our experience, but the best way probably, I would say, to actually find out the most about your Sentinel ingestion costs is to actually join our next webinar, which is on the 12th of June, where we will be talking about Sentinel ingestion costs and managing those in a management masterclass. Cool. So do we have any other questions? Okay, another one in. How does Microsoft Intune play into SecOps? Jaco or James, did you want to take that one?
So of course, Intune is used to manage your devices, and as part of Sentinel, we ingest the logs both from your Intune compliance as well as your Intune device logs, and we utilize those to help identify which devices are compliant, which devices have fallen away from compliance. So for us, they are quite important, and they do assist with understanding the environment, especially on your device, your managed devices side, a bit more with a bit more detail.
Thanks, Jaco. Okay, we've got a few more coming in now. Great, thanks everyone for contributing. It really helps when there's some good questions. So we have another one, which is, what's the requirement for using securitycopilot.microsoft.com? Does it need to be E5 plus Copilot license, and are costs covered under Copilot license fees? James, are you aware or able to answer that one, please? I think you're on mute, James.
Or maybe my microphone was away. With Copilot, is based on a as use basis where you buy units and you use them. With an MSSP, we use our own units when we require. We wouldn't want to be using client units. You'd have to purchase and use them yourself on your own tenancy.
Okay. Thanks, James. Go on, Jaco.
In terms of licensing, unfortunately, the Copilot license does not include SKUs or compute units, as James mentioned. These are purchased separately and run separately from the Copilot license.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Next question in from James. At what point would a company need to start strongly considering Microsoft Sentinel? I'm at a law firm, approximately 200 users currently, and GDPR is crucial to us. I'm happy to take that one unless anybody else wants to step in, but we have a number of law firms or legal practices that are clients, and they range from anything around sort of 20 users up to 500 or more. So I think if you want to understand what your security threat landscape is, then having Sentinel, if you have the budget for the ingestion and the service, then I think there's no time like the present to actually start considering it. Having visibility of what's going on in your environment is really, really important. And with the elements of GDPR as well, we see a lot of phishing attacks across the law firms that we support. Some of those are quite sophisticated. Attackers are definitely using more of a quality rather than quantity attack approach these days when it comes to phishing, and a lot more of these firms are falling foul because somebody is has managed to steal credentials, they've got into the system, there's sort of business email compromise going on, and attackers been sat in a mailbox watching the conversations going back and forth. They've inserted themselves into the conversation, they've obfuscated their sort of presence by filtering off response emails into, you know, innocuous folders within Outlook, so nobody is particularly aware. And if you don't have monitoring of these things, then you know, it's going to be definitely a when, not if scenario. I mean, feel free to get in contact, James, if you want to have a further discussion around, you know, possible solutions for yourself. We can certainly support with that. Next on the list, we have, do you only offer fully managed XDR and Sentinel services, rapid response? We have a suite of extensive security services, but you know, managed XDR is what we do predominantly, but we do have other services that we offer, and there's also consultancy services as well. If you've got your own internal security operation, but you need some support to actually get things off the ground. So again, I would suggest get in touch and we can show you the different options that are available. Okay. 2 seconds. And I think, let me just double check. And there's one more that's come in. To manage XDR and Sentinel with Copilot, do we need to have access to manage Intune? Jaco and James, do you want to take that one?
I'll say that. It's nice to have, but not necessary. And noise threat hunting. It works well without Intune, but there is a plugin to use Intune if it's available.
Brilliant. Oh, and here's a really good question as well. How well do these systems work in education settings where the risk posed by student accounts and the actions you may need to take could differ to those originating from staff accounts? I'm happy to open this up to Jaco and James, but I know that we have got a number of education settings that we have previously worked with that we're currently working with. And yes, there is that differentiation definitely between student accounts and staff accounts, and it does work for both, but it's about that collaborative working environment with the internal teams to understand what, you know, that landscape looks like, so that you can really tune the platform so that it works well for both elements. But Jaco, James, if you want to add anything, that would be great.
I think you covered that nicely. Thank you, Anna.
Okay, great. Okay, next one we have, we've set a daily Sentinel usage cap of 15 gig, and there's a sudden spike, say 20 gig from a specific source type, which we notice in the usage dashboard, sorry. Will the dashboard still accurately reflect the usage from other source types, or will the cap affect the visibility of their data? That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure about that one. Jaco, would you know?
So when you set the cap on Sentinel, that's unfortunately a hard stop. So if it is at 15 gigs and there's a spike, any data after that 15 gig limit will be dropped off, and that's going to affect any of the data sources being ingested. What I would suggest is to rather increase the limit more so that you can identify where your sweet spot is, but also look at adding cost notifications rather than hard limits on your ingestion. You wouldn't want to sit blind by, you know, losing logs at the last couple of days of the month, or worst case somewhere during an incident. I would rather say focus on cost warnings or cost alerts rather than capping your ingestion at a point where it could potentially be breached. Of course, if you are familiar with your environment and it's always below 15 gigs, you could set that up as a safety, but you always run that risk of where there is a spike, you might potentially lose some data.
Cool. Thanks, Jaco. And one more. Great. Does AI-powered SOC feature is it included in Kocho Managed Service Plan? Kocho is already managing our Sentinel Azure platform XDR. We are using AI within the SecOps team, but it's used more to augment the analysts' ability to triage quickly and investigate quickly. And then also, you know, things around sort of playbooks and also discovering sort of more around the sort of user entity analytic behavior piece as well, really. Jaco or James, I don't know if you want to expand on that as well.
Yeah, as you said, Anna, the Copilot or Security Copilot functionality that we make use of sits within our analysts and does not necessarily spill through to the client environment. These are visible to us and assist us in making our decisions quicker and more accurate, but it does not directly relate back into our customer environments. Where necessary, we can assist our customers with setting up their own Security Copilot units, and we can then assist them in leveraging those functionalities within their environment, and we can leverage off that if needed, or continue to use our own into the environment, if that's the right term.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got a couple more minutes. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they wish to ask. It's been really appreciative that everybody's been happy to share questions as well. Okay, one more from Oliver. So it says, I think the frustration across industry is unpredictable costs. You may not have any control of a node suddenly ingesting massive amounts of data / metrics. What is Microsoft doing in this area to ensure that costs are predictable while not affecting coverage of data and incidents? Simrat, that might be one for you.
Yeah, I think part of it will be covering in the Sentinel cost management masterclass that we are doing in next month. But there are a couple of links that I can share here on how you can predict Microsoft costs. I think we've been hearing this from customers for some time now, and hence we thought a dedicated session on just to take you through on the Sentinel cost management would be really helpful. But having said that, if you're not able to join the next one, I'll be anyway sharing some of the links in which you can do an analysis or maybe set up a separate time with your security specialist and the technical specialist to take you through some of the basic areas on how you can manage your costs and how to sort of get started with that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Simrat. That's great. Okay, so I think that's just about time. It just remains for me to say thank you to everyone for attending today. Hope you found it informative and it's, you know, allowed you to have a think about a few things. And like I said, if you do have any questions, then please get in touch. As we said at the beginning of the webinar, the slides and the recording will be sent out and shared with everyone. So if there is something that pops up later in the week or even next week that you think, oh, I should have asked that question, then please do reach out. Let me just double check. Oh yeah, James says that I think some learning resources were mentioned earlier by Simrat, the wonderful Microsoft lady whose name I forgot. So yeah, yeah, Simrat, I think you were going to share those learning resources. Yeah, so we will send those out. Yeah. They will be shared after the call, James, so you will get them, no problem. Brilliant. Well, thank you, everyone. And that's a wrap for today. Hopefully see you again on the next webinar on the 12th when we look at discussing those Sentinel costs.